Welcome to shoot day. So the first thing, always feed yourself if you can. Get ahead of the game. You can't rely on the client all the time. When I arrive on location, I always check where the sun's going to land. I have to get exteriors on these shoots, and sometimes I have to be in the lobby area doing interviews. I want to know where the sun's going to be at all times. I do that as soon as I arrive, and that could help make decisions for me throughout the day. Another big tip I like to give out is bring door stops, rubber and wood door stops. It will save you on loading and it'll give you the accessibility to just move around quickly. The client wanted me to set up in this area and they actually wanted me to do the interviews in here. I kind of fought him on it because I didn't like the size of the room, the area that it was in, just the backgrounds were ugly and it just wasn't going to work. And then if you flip it around the other way, it's just as bad with different things in the background. So here's one of the spaces. This is the lobby area and it is very small. So normally we do shots of patients coming in, being greeted. So setting up a testimonial in here would be very difficult. It is possible, but it makes it difficult to get any B-roll as a result. Because normally I would shoot this direction because normally there's more stuff going on in the background, and then I have cameras right where I'm standing and everything else is open to get B-roll shots this way. But now ideally, this direction is more appealing for the interviews. So the lobby is a win. I am going to move this ugly table out of the way, move the couch forward. I want background separation. I don't want them up against the wall. It's ugly. It creates shadows. It's just bad, bad, bad. So I have two cameras that are going to be set up here. I have the 50 mil and the 85 for the tight, and I am shooting somewhat into the corner so the image isn't so flat. It looks very dull. I moved a plant over, moved some more plants over. I want to spice this up and make it look awesome. So I'm going to do everything I can in the allotted time. That's what's important is sometimes you don't have time, but when you do, take advantage of it and don't just stand around. So this next scene, you're going to see the actual interview happening. One thing that's really missing here, let me know if you catch it, lighting. Where are the lights? Well, guess what? I didn't go with any lights. That light coming in from the windows was awesome. It was on point. We had overcast once we started interviews, and it looked to be that the rest of the day. I could have adapted as needed if it got really bad, but we went with it. These interviews are cut into little segments. They're not on camera that long, so if it fluctuates here and there, it's not a big deal. We have a boom mic for amazing audio with the Zoom F3, and then we have the DJI mics, so you can see the sun coming in looking amazing. We move on here to getting some B-roll. We shoot interviews, we get some B-roll shots with them. So we do about 30-minute interview, 30 minutes of B-roll, and you just do it repetitively over and over and over again, getting wide, medium, tight, changing it up, making sure that you capture a long enough segment that they could pull something out of there and use it. Because if you just count to 3 and then you stop, that's not usable. They have to drag these out sometimes for 10 seconds. So you want to count to 10, and that gives you 30 seconds if you slow it down, because we're shooting at 60 frames a second and the output is 24, so you could do almost 3 times. It's 2.5. Here shows me constantly moving around, getting different shots and angles. I like to be a little more zoomed in on my stuff, not too wide all the time, so you get some drop off on the background, shallow depth of field, and just chat up the client the whole time. Don't be stagnant. Don't be quiet. If you're awkwardly quiet, you're not going to keep them engaged and they're just going to think they're doing something wrong. So keep them happy, keep them smiling. This is our cool hero shot. And next thing up is the actual footage from the shoot. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you like it. Here it goes. So today I wanted to talk about agency work, how agency work fits into a freelancer's day-to-day shooting, a production company's schedule, and just how they interact together, an agency, a production company, and also a freelancer individual, like many of you are. And the thing that I've come to know when it comes to agency work, it's not always about perfection and getting the highest quality product to them. And you may be thinking, well, why wouldn't I want to do my very best and give them the highest quality possible? There's many factors to that. And the reason I'm bringing all of these things up is actually tomorrow I am doing an agency shoot. And that agency shoot is for a company that kind of has a niche market that they aim for. And what it is it's actually for the medical industry. And they target medical practices, so doctors' offices, plastic surgeons, dental offices. And tomorrow is a dental shoot. It is going to be photography part of the day. There's going to be interview testimonials, and then there's going to be B-roll to lay into those interview testimonials that we get, so they could create videos, banner videos, and just highlights of the services that they make. And then also the photography is used for social and for their website. So they can have a fresh look on their website. Everything is nice and clean. It has a good flow. It matches pretty well, and it's just updated. So with the agency work that I've done, I've had to learn that I can't always go crazy with what I'm doing. I'm not going to show up there with an easy rig, my FX6s rigged out, 16,000 point lighting that's just going crazy all over the place. That's not what they want. That's not what they're expecting. That's not what I use an analogy that's pretty easy to understand. It's the old McDonald's analogy of McDonald's for your anniversary dinner. You might, but most people don't. They go there because it's consistent. They know what they're going to get, and they're usually satisfied with that. There's some variances from time to time, but for the most part, you're going to be satisfied because you're buying something that's cheap. You know it's cheap. You're good with it. The problem is when you show up to a client that is expecting and is expecting it, and then they get McDonald's in its place, they're going to be unsatisfied. And also, you may be able to deliver that steak dinner, that high quality shoot that just knocks the socks off of everyone, but not everyone can do that. And with agency work, these agencies usually work nationwide, or they attempt to, and they need to be able to find people that kill nowhere, Kansas, Alaska, in those areas like Alaska, and take that production to that high level. Yet maybe they will down the road. So you need to be able to adapt. So going in there and knowing, okay, I'm going to come in with the key, maybe a bounce for fill, and hopefully we can put a hair light up for the interviews. The B-roll, we're not lighting it. We're just going natural light. We're running with the gimbal and getting what we can, smooth shots. Now the client may have expectations and say, we want 4K, we want shallow depth of field on the B-roll, we want 10-bit 422, camera center looking straight into camera, we want them camera right looking slightly off camera, whatever the case may be. And yes, that is 100%. You want to follow those guidelines, but you want to limit the amount of time you spend to perfect something that isn't necessary. And a good example right now, I'm right here talking to my cell phone, to you guys, my audience, and I'm just using a little DJI mic. That way I don't get the vibration from the vehicle and the noise. I do have the AC running. It's already hot in Texas or things like this, because sometimes the information or the knowledge that I may give people or some insight is enough versus me setting up a camera, one of my nice ones, doing a car rig, driving around, going all that, putting all that effort in, and then we get 100 views. And do I get a return on that? Maybe, but is it necessary for what I'm trying to do? And it's not necessary. So that's where you have to start factoring in the amount of effort you put in. Tomorrow's shoot, I'm going in with 2 A7 IVs and then my FX3 on a gimbal. That way I'm more versatile. I have my 2 interview cameras. We do interview and then we shoot B-roll. Interview, B-roll, interview, B-roll. That B-roll overlays on their testimonial interview. And that will keep me flexible. Those 2 A7 IVs are used in the early part of the day to get photography done. Now, I already hear it. You're already going to start barking at me and saying, hey, you're doing too much. You are doing too much. You need to quit. You need to do this. Slow down, blah, blah, blah. The reason I do it is I want to stay busy. I want to be successful and hamburgers as a thank you. But until then, I do take on this kind of work. Is it decent? But my prices for agencies or production companies, clients, you have to deal with a lot of back end, a lot of pre-production, a lot of post-production, possibly editing. There's a lot of hand-holding and guiding that you have to do. With agency shoots or shooting for other productions, it's almost the point of they tell you what gear they want, you show up, you shoot, you leave, you're done. That's going to result in a lower rate, and that gives them the opportunity to make their profits because they found the client, they found the work, and it just works out that way. So the main point I want to get across is sometimes it's okay to back off a little, get the best possible product you can for the client in the time frame you have and in the budget. If they're shoot some B-roll, don't do it. There's no reason to do it. You know, sometimes you could back off a little and come with a, you know, a hybrid mirrorless that you have or a lesser camera. Now, if it's the only camera you have, then you know what? More and you know, as basic as you can get for the client and go from there. And that's another thing is some of my codecs that I have to use for these clients, because we're transferring files over the internet, I have fiber, so for me it's not a huge issue for big files. Codec that may not be friendly to use, that may, you know, long GOP versus all intra. Long GOP is not going to be as high quality as all intra, but they may want that because the file sizes are smaller. You just suck it up and you give them the results they want. So the next part of this video is actually going to be me going in and actually doing this shoot tomorrow and showing you kind of the chaos. Here is my lightweight gimbal setup. This is that I run with my EasyRig Vario 5. We've removed the battery. The plate's still on there. This is used for a wireless transmitter sometimes. You can go here and then you can adjust it and do it like that, like that. Switch to a Shinobi monitor. There's a battery, and we still have the motor from DJI that I use for my zoom, and there is to avoid having issues with stuff bumping the cord, and that's kind of the setup. It's a lot lighter weight, but if we didn't have the cord like that, it would be sticking out this way. Put an elbow in, keep it down that way, which is the way I have it set up. These are small rig handles, so you get this part here, you get this part here. These handles are removable here. Kind of have a little bit of safety on there. They come off. You could put them at the bottom if you prefer that style, like that. I prefer on top. Helps keep the center of gravity correct. Keep them all the way out here. And that's the setup. I will fire the gimbal up. It's not going to be perfectly level front to usually balance it towards the middle. I did also take off the time code, so that's throwing the balance off. So I've got to rebalance this, but just to show you why I have the motor on the zoom is so I can control the zoom right here. So it's real easy to go in and out. So depending on where you're going, you could zoom in and out. It gives you some flexibility when you're shooting. The autofocus on the Sony is great, so I usually, if I need to find a focus point, I could just tap the screen to focus. The EasyRig Vario 5, you see me slightly adjusting, and then I go in for the shot, and it is very smooth. And that's at 70 millimeter. So, all right, if y'all have any more questions or anything about this setup, please let me know. Here is my camera case for tomorrow. It's a Pelican 1510. This is for the agency shoot that we're doing. And I'm going to kind of give you an outline. 0.8 right here, 50 mil 1.2, 24 to 1. These are what I would be considering my backups. This is in case I need something super wide for whatever. 3 different sizes of these. I like the bigger one because it has way more output. I have batteries over here. I have these little bags that I acquired a long time ago, so I'm able to fit 6 batteries into each bag. And then down below, I have the L series Sony batteries for my monitor on. I'm not bringing chargers because I will not need them. I am positive I will not need them. I will be able to last the whole day without issue. So I have for my interview, and they will also be my photography cameras for the photography I'll be doing in the early portion of the day. Sorry about that, guys. It's getting late. So that's tone, and we will be shooting at, oh, that's that photo. So let me change that real quick. It's going to be S Cinetone, which is picture profile 11. Get a little closer so y'all can see. Picture profile 11. And then I will be at 24 frames at long GOP. The client's fine with that. And then 422 10-bit to give us, just a little more flexibility as needed. And I have 2 cards that I already formatted that are inside. That's plenty of time. I mean, that would last us the whole video portion of the day if the cameras were running nonstop. So we have plenty. So I tech these cameras out ahead of time. This saves me on site and having to, try to remember everything. I have a set of headphones here. These are the Sennheiser, let me get that for you. Sennheiser HD 280 Pros. They don't have a lot of bass to them. They're very clean sounding. So you actually get good audio versus something like if you use beats on it. Here's my 2 lav mics, and they are actually Shure lav mics. They are the Shure, I see 4221. I could get y'all detailed on those. And I use those with my DJI wireless system. So this is a 1 receiver, 2 transmitters. They also record to these individually. It's a really good system. You can see here 15.1 hours of record time on these transmitters. And then they do have built-in mics, but I will use the lav mic here that pops right off and you connect it. This is actually has my iPhone connection on it from when I do video sometimes. So I'll just swap that over on site. And then over here is my secret weapon, which is the Zoom F3. This gives capability for me to actually power phantom power on my shotgun mic, which is my 416. And also it gives me 32-bit float, which saves my tail in these high stress situations. Something could go wrong. You never know what's going to happen. This has Advil, Tylenol, aspirin, things like that, just in case, I get remove stuff easily. You ever get a adapter like one of these guys stuck and you can't separate it from like a step-up ring, you can use these guys to do that. And they're really good to have, and they're so inexpensive compared to the headache of trying to get stuff to work. So I always use these guys. Let's see if I can get them back. Oh, I had them. There we go. Should work. There's that. And then down below there are sensor wipes. You open up the aperture, or you close down the aperture, and then all of a sudden you see spots. It's terrible. A few other things. I have lens wipes. I only use these guys to wipe my lenses. And the trick to these guys is, first of all, this is always going to be clean. If you pick up a microfiber that you've used with your lens and smear that on there, I mean, you might as well just drag it across the concrete. I mean, it's a bad move. So I use these guys. I open them up and I kind of fan it, and then I work to the outside. So they're really great. And when I'm done, I dispose of it. And when I need a new one, I get a new one. Earplugs for when it's loud, depending on the situation. I have a little screw kit here with all kinds of accessories. This is from Small Rig. They're really great. Another cool thing, if you're doing architecture, product photography, things like that, these are really cool because it will give you a level and it just slides on and you can see if you're level or not. So here we're getting a lot of glare, but you can see if you're level. So we're level this way, but not. I love these things. I'll do this first if I have to, and then pull it off, and then you put whatever accessories you want on there. So they're really inexpensive too, and oh my gosh, they're lifesavers. I have oil absorbing sheets. These are from Amazon. And I take these for interviews because sometimes people come in oily, especially if you don't have hair and makeup. And it's always nice to just hand these over to get that sheen off to help make the image look better. I have HDMI cables and other cables in here. I have phone charger, other cables in here. We have step-up rings of various types. There's some more solution for the sensor wipe. Couple rechargeable batteries in there. I only have one thing that's taking batteries, and that's going to be the F3, and it already has a battery and SD card in there. And that's that right there. Body and lens caps, and then I have my SD cards, which I use the ProGrade, so I could get a lot of features out of my camera. And then I have some extra there. Backup lens plate. Little multi-tool right there, little teeny tiny one. I have in my van a better multi-tool kit, so I don't need to pack it into here. But yeah, this is my camera setup for tomorrow. And the gimbal already has the FX3 and has everything set up on it. So I'm going to pop that over here right now just so you can see it. And it's ready to go. So I'll keep it set up and rocking out and ready to go. So it goes like this. I have my ultra thin HDMI cable. Look how thin that is. I mean, there's going to be no stress or strain on the gimbal when something's that lightweight. I mean, it's amazing. So that's my setup for tomorrow. And lighting, I will actually photograph or film on site to let you guys see.